That movie was cool. Just understanding dependent origination as well on a deeper and deeper level. And I feel like that really brought my realization to a whole new level. The deepening is beyond stages of insights or maps or levels. Yeah, it's quite profound actually. I can't put into words either. I think for a lot of people after non-dual shifts, I think the missing piece is deeper understanding of emptiness and dependent origination, which the same insight, two sides of the same coin. Yeah. Easy to see already, but the body is just a cloud of sensations. You look at your hand, an image is not really my hand, not my feet, but there's a very subtle identification to the image of your face. Very subtle, sometimes it's unconscious, especially when you communicate with people or look at another person. There's a thought of your face, the image of your face, which is just a thought, but then there's also another thought that's connected to that thought, which is how other people will see that face. A thought is only real because of other thoughts. There's some kind of a dependentizing process going on. The inquiry could be, where is the image that you have of your face? Even if it's just a very subtle image, in the back of your mind, what is that connected to? Why is there a thought there? It's another thought of how other people will perceive that face. And those two are co-dependentizing, right? There's the self and other co-arise. So nothing stands alone, right? Everything's interwoven, arising and vanishing through other things, which means like everything is impermanent and empty in of themselves. And one thing to contemplate on, to see through thoughts, is to investigate the space between any two thoughts. And then you realize that the thoughts are actually exactly the same no thing as the space. And the fact that thoughts or any other sensations or even the body is made of the same emptiness as the space, then you can see that thoughts don't have any intrinsic existence, neither does space actually. This thought gives rise to this feeling, and this feeling gives rise to more thoughts, and these thoughts then creates more feelings. Actually, the Buddha never made a distinction between thoughts and feelings. It's just sensations. So this reinforcing feedback loop is what generates solidity that makes up the self. But whatever dependent originates never truly arose in the first place, because two things like self or other, when they manifest together, they also simultaneously vanish together, right? That's the dance between emptiness and appearance. And this is why all sensations are ultimately non-arising, non-abiding, and non-ceasing. It's just air on air. And that's the only reason why anything comes into existence, because things are empty of essence, infinite transformations and potentialities becomes possible. So a really good practice is abide in the spaciousness and just in a really relaxed way, and just kind of feel into how there's some kind of very subtle thought of that I exist, and it's usually associated with the picture, the image of your face. And then just kind of inquire into the fact that that thought of your face has nothing to do with your face. If you do the headless way, you know that already. You've never seen your face. You've never seen your head. A picture is not your head. Reflection is not the face. So what you have instead of a head is this infinite boundless space of awareness that is no different from the world. So thoughts and beliefs about your face, the I, is what creates solidity. And a lot of these beliefs that create separation are actually subconscious.
I started doing like DMT ceremonies.
Oh shit, you can get that here? You can do that here?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
So
This is already a trip.
Man, like,
Tripping and trip. Yeah.
Tripping in the trip.
Yeah. I've never been to Mexico, so I was like, oh.
A lot to get. I follow you since like 2012. A couple of years ago, you took all this spiritual trip. Mind blowing, man.
So subjectively, we don't have faces or heads, which allows other people to have their heads through the open space that we are, and vice versa. And this is the dance between love and emptiness, and how subject and object co-arise. So that thought of your face is only connected to how you think other people are perceiving your face. Especially if you do this kind of open eye meditation, the gazing with other people. When you look at my face through the screen, if you really relax into it, it stops becoming a face. The concept of Frank's face, or even the concept of a face, is only arisen through your conception of your face, right?
And this is how self-consciousness or the selfing mechanism is created.
That's really hard to deconstruct. I was reading about neuroscience and how we have a very specific region of our brain that only deals with recognizing faces. Like if you look at 10 cats of the same species or the same kind of cat, you really can't tell the difference. Unless you're like, one of them is your pet. But if you look at 10 faces, it's very clear to you there are 10 different people, because the part of the brain that's associated with recognizing faces is actually extremely beneficial and a very crucial part of the brain for our survival. Our ancestors have to tell the difference between friends and foes, right? And they were such visual animals. It's almost like at the end you just dissolve everything, but there's still a little face inside. And you just see that face, it's just sensations. What's behind that face? Nothing. And that thought of your face is no different than the thought of a dragon or a unicorn.
A psych ward walked into a bar, ordered a fetus to drink a peasant. They chant in unison from afar. The only difference between me and a madman is I'm not mad. Are you mad at a hologram, bruv? Said the little ladybug down below. Opening her wings, revealing a kaleidoscope. There it is all written. The theory of relativity, where God does and doesn't play dice, and where God's mom goes when she needs a secret cigarette break. A black hole and a white hole walk into a hole in the wall. They congeal in the middle, gallivanting, where neither existing nor non-existing.
Yeah, I totally agree, man. Like, it's almost like you can just see the fractals of reality at the same time. It's like you can see into the past, in the future, and the present at the same time. And it's like you can kind of understand the cause and the condition that gives rise to everything. So once you realize timelessness, paradoxically, all time and all space exist simultaneously as fabrications. Just like how ultimately there is no cause and effect, but at the same time there is. Now you're in the both neither space, but even that's a view, so let that go too. Every moment in the present moment, you be mindful of just like choosing between wholesome or unwholesome, or the way I describe it is the path of the least resistance versus resistance. Yeah. If you just keep going down that route, you'll see that if you change something in the present moment, if you make the decision to go wholesome in the present moment, it changes your past too, as well as your future. So it's all codependent arising. If I tweak this moment, the past and the future gets altered as well, and that feeds back into the present moment. It's just the infinite webs and infinite webs of InterNet. It's just a fact that like you can apply the concept of reincarnation to moment experiences, like every single thought and every single sensation. You as a whole, as an organism or as a psychological being, is being reborn, dying, being reborn, dying simultaneously, moment to moment. So you actually, this moment is giving birth to the next moment, to the next moment. That's rebirth, that's reincarnation, or even yesterday, or the day, the day before, and the future, and they're all codependent, right? Yeah, and then Dawson was saying, I think Dawson truly believes that reincarnation is real, like literally real, like not just moment to moment, but actually you do have previous lives, and then if you don't become awakened in this lifetime,
The traces of your karma and conditionings, it's going to float around in the atmosphere, and due to causes and conditionings, it's going to be compounded with the sperm and the egg, and whatever genetic makeup that most resemble these conditionalities, right? So quote-unquote reincarnation doesn't have to be supernatural. Actually, it's law of nature. So whether reincarnation is real or not is not the right question. The actual inquiry is, what is real, or what is this? You dissolve the duality between the real and the unreal. Things don't come in and out of existence. They're just transformed. Maybe it's not your individual consciousness per se, but it's just like the traces of you after you die is hovering around the atmosphere. And that makes sense, because even if your body decomposes, you still emitting some kind of a trace, right? But then if the body, the mind is the same thing, then maybe your mind leaves some kind of a trace in the atmosphere after you die, and then that trace is the trace of your karma, your conditioning that hasn't been dissolved in this lifetime, quote unquote. And then so what happens is that the conditionality that's hovering around the atmosphere is going to latch on to the sperm and the egg and the genetic makeup that best correlates with that particular critical consciousness. That's what Dr. Armstrong said in his talks about dependent origination. Let's say if my previous life, let's just say this lifetime, I didn't dissolve my condition with sexuality. That karma is hovering around. And then my dad and my mom, because their genetic makeup is also corresponding with that particular karma, so they match and codependent rise. So that explains how my dad is also like a sex addict. That karma got passed on to me, even if you don't look at it in a metaphysical or like a esoteric sense, like epigenetic, like, you know, your parents and grandparents' trauma or your great grandparents' trauma or their conditioning, it gets passed on to your genes, like epigenetics. It leaves a trace in the DNA. That concept of reincarnation, what I just said, to get to the next level, it takes into consideration mental formations. Mentality and materiality is the same thing. Yeah. Even this moment for you and I, there's no separate self in there that gets reincarnated moment to moment. But somehow there is an experience that seems continuous. So you don't need individual selves or soul for there to be reincarnation. What gets reincarnated are just causes and conditionings that keeps getting transformed. And consciousness is just part of this conditionality. Let me give you an example of like reincarnation happening in real time. What creates karma is your intention. It's almost like that direction of attention that we try to dissolve through twin. That direction of attention pointing from the subject to the object is what's creating the difference between the ego and the world, right? That's what's creating the duality. That's the source of grasping, right? Once you awaken, the direction of attention is gone. So you don't really create new karmas. The reason why you don't generate karmas after awakening is because you let go of the resistance to the causes and condition of the universe. Yeah. The contraction of direction of attention is what's creating the craving. And that is the thing that's created the karma. So let's just say I still have all those karmas in my consciousness, and then I see a really hot girl, and I try to get her number or try to sleep with her with all those intentions going on. That's what's generating the karma. That's perpetuating the karma. That's no different than what I was talking about earlier, about how after you die, quote unquote, that karma is trying to find the sperm and egg and the genetic DNA material that correspond with that particular karma, so you can be reincarnated again, so you can... That's the same thing, right? That's the same thing happening in like this lifetime. You're perpetuating the karma through this intentionality of, you know, the separate self. And this intentionality is latching on to the materiality of the world that best correlate with that particular karma. Both the physical and mental level, that's how they interact. Neither mind and matter exists intrinsically. But through interactions or interpenetration, energy manifests as either quote-unquote mind or quote-unquote matter in different degrees or vibration and solidity. And this materiality and mentality complex, I guess we can call that the individual organism, through the six sense doors, create contact with the environment, which creates pleasant or unpleasant sensations, which then generate either craving or aversion, which are manifested through this contraction in the area of attention that's pointing from the subject to the object. And that's what's reinforcing the split between self and others, self and world, or within yourself. The subject in here is craving for or averting the objects out there. And that push and pull, the reaction that you added on top of how things are, that's what's perpetuating the karma and creating the solidity. Because it perpetuates habitual tendencies or behaviors that will give birth to the next cycle of the same karmas and conditionings in the future. This is the wheel of samsara. And this is how all these different links of dependent origination manifest each other and come together to form intention, perception, consciousness, feelings, behaviors, and reactions that drives an organism to navigate the world in a certain way. And if this wheel of samsara keeps on rolling because the links of dependent origination hasn't been taken apart, then from one moment to the next or from one lifetime to the next, the wholesome or unwholesome mindset or actions continues to perpetuate itself. Until one day, like you and I in this lifetime, decided that we've had enough, right? And decided to take on a spiritual practice and become a seeker on this path to untangle this whole mess of suffering. And through wisdom, turn the wheel of samsara towards the path of liberation. And this is the process of purifying the mind. And when you become quote-unquote fully enlightened, no more karmas gets generated. This is why nirvana means to put out a flame. It's a cessation of suffering, right? So you hop off the cycle of birth and rebirth. If you understand this process, you also understand how consciousness is fabricated moment to moment through conditionality. So the difference between an arahat's mind and an unawakened mind is that the former doesn't have extra conditions that's creating the grasping and the resistance on top of the conditionality of life itself. But that's it. It's all causes and conditioning that's always unfolding and transforming to create the world and a subjective experience of it. And the two, self and world, are also codependent arising, which means that neither has an intrinsic existence. And to put things on a practical level, the solution is very simple. Just let things be the way they are without pushing and pulling. Just total acceptance to the what is. Every time you let go of grasping or resistance, you're purifying the mind towards the natural state. I realized that all my previous relationships, it's all the same karma. Once you start to dissolve some of your karmas and defilements, you see that, wait, the people that you're meeting in your life, they become different, like you're evolving. Whereas before, you can move to a new city, a new country, but then you still realize that you're actually still hanging out with the same kind of people because that's your reality, that you're perpetuating that karma, and that karma is hooking on to other people who are generating the same kind of karma, and then you guys get together, and then you guys perpetuate that karma together. Every time I have a cessation, I hit a new path or whatever, I'm like transported or ejaculated into a different dimension. And a lot of my friends that used to be in my world will just disappear. That's because I dissolve the part of my defilement and my condition that's associated with these kind of people. The people that I associate myself with is just more in line with my like quote unquote like frequency or vibration, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, but that's not to say that one is better or worse than the other. No, it's all perfect, even imperfections. All my relationship is just karma after karma, and then just like reincarnation, each time I move to a new relationship, I dissolve a little bit of that karma, a little bit of that karma, a little bit of that karma. And there's less and less attachments and more unconditional love. every single moment you have a choice between being mindful or not being mindful, being ignorant or replacing or transforming that ignorance with wisdom. As long as you start waking up to that fact moment to moment, you are, deleting the karma. That's all you have to do. Observe and relax, and everything else take care of itself. Observe, release, and relax. That's it. That's the tune, right?
Yeah, literally. Yeah.
If you don't create more resistance on top of the resistance that's already happening around, you're not really generating new karmas actually. So every time you observe, relax, and release, you are deleting a little bit of the karma, a little bit of the karma, a little bit of the conditioning, a little bit of defilement. And with a cessation, you delete like a huge chunk of it. And with a macro cessation, you're deleting like even bigger chunk of it. But each moment that you stay like aware, each moment that you observe, release, and relax, you're kind of going through a mini cessation, which builds up to a bigger cessation. And the bigger cessation all like bundle up together to create a cosmic cessation. And at the end, it's the biggest cessation ever. It's the cessation of suffering. It's just like, nirvana, non-arising, non-passing, non-ceasing. It's beyond life and death, the deathless, the unborn, the unconditioned.